All right, guys, we're just about to go live here on Facebook. I'm just setting everything up through the software, and yeah, we got a snowy day here on Long Island. So this is going to be simulcast on YouTube as well as through my podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. This is Pete Weintraub, permanent weight loss specialist, coming at you with another Facebook Live video or podcast, depending on how you're ingesting this, on in the permanent weight loss community on Facebook. If you're not a member, please feel free to join by clicking on the link in the description below. All right, we're going live. All right, guys, we are live here in the permanent weight loss community. This is Pete Weintraub, permanent weight loss specialist, and today we've got a good question. Just so you know, if you do comment, I'm going to be checking it periodically, but I do use a software so that I can record this and stream it to you guys and use the graphic effects. So I'm not always going to be looking in the group. So if you do have a question that I don't address today, then please feel free to leave it in the comments. I will check it periodically, like I said, throughout this if you're watching this live. So today we had a good question on the fitness side from Kylie, and I'm going to show it to you right now. And Kylie asked, cardio versus lifting, balancing between the two when working out, and which is more effective or has better results. And then I asked for a little more clarification. I wanted to know what she did for cardio and what she did for weightlifting. So she said that for cardio, she did mostly the elliptical and the treadmill, and she does interval training with both. That's good. And then she also said for the weightlifting, she does it every other day, focusing on one muscle group each day. All right, so I think it's important to realize that both can be helpful for weight loss. And in fact, you need to have a well-balanced approach in order to see results. From the fitness side, I'm sure you've heard this term that you want to keep your body guessing, and that's very true. That's why I think it's important to have a wide variety of things that you utilize. So you mentioned, Kylie, cardio-wise, you do both the elliptical and the treadmill. That's great. Those are two different types of cardio. You also do interval training. And interval training, for you guys who aren't that aware of it, there's different ways to do it, but the way that is most commonly done is something called high-intensity interval training. Basically, you'll go hard doing whatever it is. In her case, either using the elliptical or running on the treadmill. You go hard for 20, 30, 40 seconds, up to a minute, whatever it is. And then you'll take a rest period, usually in a 2-to-1 ratio. So you'll go hard for, let's say, a minute. You'll take a rest, and rest in quotations if you're listening, for 30 seconds. And basically what that enables you to do is you catch your breath and then you go again. The rest period can even be just going from sprinting or going 80% or harder to jogging lightly or walking and then going back up. Obviously, if you're on a treadmill, sometimes depending on how quickly it will adjust when you go up and down in speed, then that can be a little difficult. But interval training is great, and weight training also. There's so many studies that talk about the importance of weight training from a health perspective. It helps you to prevent osteoporosis as you get older. It helps you because as you get older, just naturally, it's one of the few things that the scientific community is actually correct about. When you do age, you do tend to lose muscle mass. Once you hit 40 and every decade thereafter, you tend to lose a little bit of muscle mass. So incorporating resistance training into your exercise routine is important. In fact, with my private clients who I design fitness programs for as well, we always do a combination of both. So we do interval training with weights, not always with weights, but usually there are at least a few resistance exercises included in the interval circuit. And we'll also throw in calisthenics, plyometrics, we'll do some flexibility training, we'll do core, and we'll do body weight training, so things like push-ups, squats, functional movements like that. So it's good, Kylie, that you do those things and you do them separately. One thing you might want to do is what I just said, which is taking the two and combining them. And then obviously for that, if you lift heavy-ish for you, you're probably going to have to use lighter to more moderate weights just so you can get through the interval, because 20 seconds doesn't sound like a long time, but if you're using a weight that's kind of heavy for you, it can often be more than 12 repetitions, and that's when you'll really start to feel fatigue. And especially when you only have 10 seconds to recover or whatever it is, whatever your intervals are, that can really add up in a very short period of time. Within a couple of minutes, you'll barely be able to lift your arms by themselves, let alone lift a weight over your head, whatever it is that you're doing. So I think they both have their benefits, but I think it's important to note too that, and I've gone over this before, and I'll put the image in the comments below here once I'm done recording the video, and that is the permanent weight loss pyramid is something that's very important to consider. So basically, the pyramid starts at the bottom. You got to have mindset. Obviously, if you're here, you have the right mindset. You want to lose weight, you want to get healthy, you never want to have to look back. And you got to keep that in perspective, because there are days or even weeks where it's going to feel like a slog, where you don't feel that you're seeing the types of results you want, but you got to keep going, because the second you take a step back, you're going to undo any progress you made, even if it's been negligible. All right, so there's that. But the first physical thing you need to worry about, Kylie, and everybody in the group, on top of fitness, is your nutrition. You can have the best fitness program in the world, but if your nutrition sucks, you're never going to reach the results you want. All right? So nutritionally speaking, a lot of people worry about a caloric deficit. In fact, last week on our call, I actually addressed that a little bit. We had a member, Essence, who's doing great, by the way. She implemented what I recommended to her last week, which is what I'm about to reiterate here. And in a week, she lost 3 pounds. She's feeling better, and she's starting to overcome this weight loss plateau that she had encountered. But basically, from a nutritional perspective, stop worrying about calories. Eventually, I know there have been studies that have come out to try and disprove this, but if your body's in a calorically restrictive state for too long, your body tends to go into a starvation mode. Basically, then everything you eat, whether it's a good thing, whether it's a bad thing, it'll be stored as fat. It slows your metabolism, and it makes it that much harder to see results on your journey. So rather than focusing on the quantity of food you're eating, you should focus more so on the quality. And there's a sentence that I have all my clients memorized. I stole the original one from CrossFit founder Greg Glassman, and I've edited it a little bit because to really reiterate the key tenets to proper nutrition. And the sentence goes: eat meats, non-starchy vegetables, raw nuts and seeds, some fruit, so low glycemic fruit, little starch, half a cup or less, and no added sugar. So again, to repeat, meats, all fair game. And obviously I prefer you get organic, wild caught, not farm raised. Stay away from stuff like that, especially fish. Non-starchy vegetables, raw nuts and seeds, low glycemic fruit, half a cup or less of starch at any meal, and no added sugar. So if you go to the grocery store, you're doing your grocery shopping, you want to shop usually the periphery of the store. All right, so that's where the produce is, that's where the meats are, that's where the fish is. You don't want to shop the interior aisles where you're buying things in boxes, cans, and bottles. That tends to be processed junk that does no good to you. It's usually loaded with sugar or artificial sweeteners and other processed ingredients that are detrimental to both your weight loss goals as well as your health in general. So that's definitely something you don't want to do. But you got to have your nutrition in check, Kylie, because otherwise it's going to be very, very difficult. All right, so that's number one. And then number two, you want to have your sleep in order. And a lot of people neglect sleep on their weight loss journeys. And look, for me now at this stage, I'd say sleep is the toughest thing for me to stay consistent with. But sleep is vitally important, and according to Chris Kresser, who's a naturopathic doctor and has done extensive amounts of research on this subject, he actually just came out with a book. I'm listening to it on an Audible, and I forget the name of it, but it talks about functional medicine. And he actually has this physical hierarchy similar to the permanent weight loss pyramid. And we agree on the 3 physical elements that are important and the order of precedence. So number 1 is nutrition, which we just went over. Number 2, even superseding fitness, is sleep. So with sleep, there's 2 90-minute based windows we want to sleep in. There's 7.5 hours and there's 9 hours. If you're not sure which one works best for you, I'd say try 7.5 first. Try it for a week. See how you feel. Make sure that each night you're getting 7.5 hours of sleep. So you want to be in bed half an hour beforehand. You want to be sleeping in a dark, quiet room. And you don't want to have electronics on, whether it's a television across from your bed or whether it's a cell phone or a tablet or your laptop next to your bed on the nightstand. And the reason being is that the blue light helps keep us awake. And we've all been there before, where if you have Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime Video or something like that, you get into a movie or you get into a series, you're like, I'll watch an episode before bed. And before you know it, you continue to watch, and it's 2 or 3 in the morning. You got to be up for work in 2 or 3 hours, and it's just not conducive to your health. When you do deprive yourself of sleep to that extent, you have a sleepless night or a close to sleepless night, your body is almost in an insulin-resistant state. When you wake up the next day, you're more likely to want to eat or drink sugary garbage because you're just looking for anything to keep you functional. Sadly, with that stuff, it raises your insulin levels, and everything that's not needed at that time for energy purposes and functionality purposes is stored as fat. You repeat that cycle long enough, it's obviously not conducive. So sleep, vitally important, even more so than fitness. Once you get into fitness, like I said, and to again reiterate one last time for Kylie's question, you want to change it up. She's doing a good job of that. I'd say you could even do more if you want. If you like, here in the Northeast, we have a blizzard going on outside right now, right here to my right. But if you like hiking, if you like doing stuff outdoors, maybe if you live in a warmer climate and it's easier to do things outdoors, go walking, go jogging, go hiking. You could go swimming. You can go bicycle riding. If you're a sports person, you can join a recreational sports league. Like I play softball when it's nice around here. I play it, at least 2 or 3 times a week, and I do that in conjunction with some other workouts. I do yoga. There's so many different types of fitness that you can do. So I would say for a lot of people who aren't sure what the best method is, I always tell my clients and my group members the best method of fitness is the one that works well for you, the one that you enjoy doing, the one that you can get motivated to do more often than not. And always change it up, because even if you're doing something you love all the time, you can get bored, which is why you want to have a few things at the bare minimum that you can interchange, like Kylie's doing. When she does resistance training, she's focusing on different body parts each time she does it. She's not just doing the same routine day in, day out when that comes up. For cardio, she changes up through a couple of machines, and I'd say, Kylie, you can even add in some others. Go on the Stairmaster and do interval training. Go on a rower and do interval training. Rowers are actually the best cardio equipment you can utilize. So I would definitely try and implement some rowers into it as well. And the cool thing about rowers, especially the Concept 2, which is the most common one you'll find in most gyms, is you can adjust the resistance setting. So you can do it more so for cardio, or you can do it for both cardio and resistance training. Because if you think about it, when you're doing a rowing machine, it starts from your feet. You got to drive through your feet, then your legs, then your core, then you're pulling with your arms and your shoulders and your back. So you're getting your whole body involved in rowing. I mentioned biking. There's so many different pieces of cardio equipment in gyms, if that's where you like to work out, that you can use. So change that up even as well. Interval training is great. And obviously with interval training, one thing I want to say too is you want to push yourself. All right. So if you're doing intervals of like 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, or 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off, and that's becoming too easy for you, whether it's on certain machines or just in general, that's good. That means your cardiovascular endurance has increased. Then you need to up your game more. So then you go to 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off. When that gets too easy, 50 seconds on, 25 seconds off, whatever. And you just keep building up from there. You can even reduce your rest period. So instead of doing it at a 2-to-1 ratio, which I'd usually recommend, you could do it at like a 2.5 ratio, and so on. And it can continue to build in that case. So always challenge yourself, diversify, keep your body guessing. There's actually one last thing that I'll mention here. One of the first things I learned when I got my first personal training certification 10 years ago, one of the first things I learned in the textbook, and it was on the test, multiple questions, I still remember it to this day, was something called the SAID principle. And the SAID principle, SAID, it's an acronym. I forget what the acronym means, but the SAID principle states that the body reacts to the demands being placed on it. And they use the example of male men and male women. You know, they lug these really big bags full of mail and packages and things like that. They walk many miles a day. That's one of the more active jobs you can have. But if you look around, especially here in the United States, in this country, a lot of male men and a lot of male women are overweight. And why is that? It's because their bodies have adapted to the demands being placed on them through their jobs, and thus, despite it being very physically demanding for them, it's no longer physically demanding, and it's not really working their bodies to the degrees that are necessary to continue to elicit a positive change and positive feedback. So always challenge yourself, change things up, keep your body guessing, do modes of fitness that work well for you so you can stay motivated. And when you do that and you couple it with consistent sleep, 7.5 or 9 hours again, like I said, and use the protocol, be in bed half an hour before, lights out, quiet room, keep electronics off and away from you for the duration of the night, you're going to be in much better shape. Then nutritionally speaking, eat meats, non-starchy vegetables, raw nuts and seeds, low glycemic fruit, half a cup or less of starch and no added sugar at any meal or snack. You're going to be well on your way to reaching your goals. So I hope you guys found this helpful. I'm going to check in the group here one last time. There were no other questions. So for that, I am Pete Weintraub, Permanent Weight Loss Specialist. We're going to be doing this every Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time. I'm sorry we were a little delayed today, but we're going to aim to do noon Eastern Standard Time every Thursday here live in the Permanent Weight Loss community. And then I'm going to be posting this video and audio on YouTube, on my channel, as well as in my podcast, the Weight Loss by Pete podcast, which you can find on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. If you're watching this at a later time and you want to join the Permanent Weight Loss community and get live access to me and be involved in a community with folks looking to lose a substantial amount of weight, avoid, prevent, or reverse chronic health conditions, and avoid or prevent weight loss surgery, then join us. Link is in the description below. This is Pete Weintraub signing off. I'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good one.